What is a hobby that sounds expensive but is actually quite cheap to get into? Racing horses, you can just go out to a farmer's field and run as fast as you can. Bullfighting, same. Hey Ferdinand, your mom's a fucking cow. Gambling. Start your new hobby on the 5-cent slots and work your way up. I play tournament poker. I started with $0 and my total profit over the last few years is about $9,000. It's my bankroll. When I check my stats, I have over $100,000 in buy-ins. Knife fighting? Just find a knife and a stranger. You can get rubber training knives for cheap, if you're actually interested in contact training knife fighting. They're $20 to $30, and all you need is a partner. You can also get training knives for butterfly for pretty reasonable prices. Playing a musical instrument sounds expensive, but it really isn't when you think about it. Say you wanted to learn the acoustic guitar. Yeah, you're going to have to drop some money on an acoustic, but if you take care of it, other than changing strings, there's really no reason to ever have to upgrade your instrument. People usually make the hobby expensive by wanting to buy all the different doodads that are out there. Speaking of guitar, you can also just get a cheap one used and be set for life. Of course you'll want a better one, and there are plenty of reasons to get a better one. Don't at me about why better guitars are better, I already agree. But you don't strictly have to. There are brands that have managed to figure out how to build cheap guitars with a perfectly usable action, thank God for Chinese manufacturing and CNC machines, and you could find one of those used for under $100. Bam! You can play guitar for the rest of your life. If you squint really hard, gaming. The hours I have spent gaming make the money I've spent on gaming pretty reasonable. PC or console. The low investment for games versus hours of fun is great with gaming, so long as you're patient and don't suffer from FOMO. Prices of games are very cheap a year after launch or longer. This is how you say you're not a Nintendo gamer without saying you're not a Nintendo gamer. Cooking well. You probably already cook. Now watch some YouTube videos and refine your skills. Granted, good ingredients can be a bit pricey. You can make complete garbage with expensive ingredients. You can make great, satisfying food with cheap ingredients. That's a slippery slope. First you look into cheaper ingredients, then you look at better value ingredients, then you start looking at how you can grow your own food, then you are gardening, then you are fishing, then you are foraging. Next thing you know, you spend all your time outside and have no time left for internet. Can confirm. Wife started a garden last year and now we're moving to a cave in the mountains to live off the land. We sing "Something in the Way" by Nirvana a lot. Cave moss is delicious. Fishing. Believe me, the internet makes it seem like it's expensive, but that's a mix of showmanship and addictive spending. The hobby itself can be quite affordable. I found rod and reel sets at yard sales and on FB Marketplace as cheap as $5. Hooks to basic lures can be had at Walmart for like $1.50 to $5. And honestly, that and maybe a set of needle nose pliers is all you actually need, alongside a license. Don't fall victim to thinking you need the fancy bullshit online to have fun. It doesn't take a boat and $200 swim baits to catch fish and enjoy your time in nature. I second this. But it's only worth it if you have free and easy access to a body of water. Expensive and inexpensive hobbies are rather relative. Astronomy can be done by just standing outside. There are some fantastic free apps that will tell you what you're looking at. And a second-hand pair of binoculars or a telescope can be had for under $100. I do a lot of sailing, and a well-used but serviceable 28-foot sailing yacht that when new would have cost an equivalent of $100,000 can be bought for under $5,000. That seems very cheap to me for what you get in return, but if you can't afford to pay rent or buy anything other than staple food ingredients, everything must feel out of reach. Been really tempted to pick up a dirt cheap Hobie cat and re-rig it. Super unpopular opinion, but the people have to know. Miniature painting and war games. Yes, even Warhammer. The hobby is set up to make you want to spend thousands of dollars to get started. The reality is you can find something you like looking at, but a set of 10 minis for $45 on Amazon. Grab a basic set of hobby paints and brushes for another $50 to $100, and spend many hours painting those things to your heart's content. If you buy into a cheap discount box for around $140, you can spend literal months assembling and painting that fucker. It only becomes expensive when you don't focus on the artistic side of things and you end up buying more and more unassembled models. You lie. This opinion brought to you by the forces of chaos. I agree, too many people think they need a 2K army next month. Instead, spend that much time on a squad. I truly think $20 a month would give most miniature painters a backlog. Bush wreck hunting. It's a hobby my nephew and I invented. I'm not wealthy, far from it. My 10-year-old nephew comes from a wealthy family. He has all the expensive toys and Lego etc. I can't afford any of that. He often comes to stay with me out in the country, Australia, and we find cheap fun things to do. Recently we decided to drive around randomly in the bush on old logging tracks from way back in the day. I live in a region surrounded by vast forests, and we look for old abandoned cars, which has been pretty successful. He gets a thrill out of finding them, and I get satisfaction trawling Google Earth looking for potential spots where people may have dumped old cars. Last trip, he took some power tools, and removed some parts as souvenirs. I'm not too sure his parents are terribly thrilled with him decorating his room with rusty old steering wheels and such. Cost, cheap. A bit of fuel in the old 4x4 and some lunch at a local bakery. Hiking. The All Trails app is free and shows hundreds of routes around your local area. Great way to explore new places, and the upfront cost is a pair of decent walking boots/shoes and maybe a rain jacket and backpack, but most the time people already own these. Sailing, cheaper than you think if you live near a sailing club that races. You just need non-marking shoes and wet weather gear, and some sailing gloves to start. You can buy expensive stuff later. Most sailing clubs have a racing sailing evening during the week like Wednesday, or a sailing day during the weekend like Sunday, where if you go and talk, you might find yourself a ride. You don't need to own a boat. Lots of boats need crew like foredeck or a grinder, someone to haul in lines or somebody to be rail meat. On a larger boat, you don't have to do much, you just have to flatten the boat out. You can take lessons in a small boat class to get the basics, or just hang around during the races. It's usually around the buoy races in the summertime. Also, the sailing community tends to be fairly serious about sailing, so be sure to tell them you're a novice. Good luck and happy sailing. I've always been curious about this. I assume sailing clubs are mostly in the ocean areas? Friend of mine sails in a lake near us. They race every Saturday during the summer. It's a big lake, but not anywhere near the top 100 in the US, so there's a solid chance of living by a bigger one. Maybe divisive, but shooting. Many people that are super into guns spend many thousands and thousands of dollars on really nice guns and high-end ammunition if they shoot regularly. However, you can also buy a Ruger 10/22, 10-round magazine that shoots .22 ammo, for around $200 or so, and the ammo is dirt cheap. It is endless amounts of fun. Also, if you really cared about this, it's a hell of a lot more effective as a home defense weapon than a frying pan. Getting hit with 10 rounds of .22 caliber would suck really bad. Absolutely. .22 caliber might not have the stopping power of a .45 caliber hollow point or a 12s, but getting shot will always suck, and most people don't want to find out if you're rocking .22, 38, or 50 calibers. And 10 rounds of anything should stop all but the most meated out psycho, especially if you're able to put them all center mass. Even if you're shooting a .22 caliber, the range fees add up. I used to blow off steam on lunch when I was a manager by going to the range. Anything other than a .22 caliber and you're in for $100 bucks for a trip to the range. If you live in the middle of nowhere, it could be super cheap. Retro gaming. Sure, people shell out $100s and $1,000s to complete their sets of physical copies of consoles and games, but there are dozens upon dozens of emulation devices starting at less than $50 that can handle thousands of retro games. Source: me. I just got one and am having a great time reliving some games I played as a child.